Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's session, Khanmigo Writing Coach. This is especially for our ELA or writing teachers, anyone who teaches writing. Let's get started. A couple of housekeeping things. We are live on YouTube, so there is a chat box. Please make sure you engage with us today. Put your thoughts in the chat. We also have some people with us today. You'll see a moderator. They have the wrench by their name. If you need some specific questions, they're here to help. Don't forget to look down below and click the like button. And while you're down there, feel free to click subscribe to the channel. We have a full day of trainings available today. So all the way up until 3 o'clock this afternoon, we're going to be here with you. So if you see another session that looks interesting to you, we'd love to have you back. At this time, I'm going to bring Tamsin Storen up to the screen with me. Tamsin is here with us from Khan Academy, and we're so excited to have her with us. So Tamsin, I am going to let you take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. All right. Good morning, everybody. We're going to get into the writing coach tool in Khan Academy's platform. I am, as Rebecca said, your professional learning specialist from Khan Academy. We also have Elizabeth, who is supporting Palm Beach County Schools. And we have in the chat, Jennifer. She is going to be helping as well. Just a quick note, your Khan Academy district support by the Ed Tech team are grouped by regions. So please take note of your regional supports from the awesome Ed Tech team. Today, we're going to go through the Khanmigo Writing Coach, kind of talking about how it's going to guide students through the essay writing process. We're going to talk about how to implement this. We're going to also focus on the teacher experience, student experience, and then back again to the teacher experience to get an idea of what it looks like throughout this whole process. I do want to point out that the Department of Teaching and Learning has released the following statement about the evaluation of writing coach for accelerated courses. So it is not recommended that this is used for any AP, ACE, or IB teachers. And if you want to refer back to this slide for any further information, or you can always reach out to the Teaching and Learning Department contacts right here on your screen for further information. Khanmigo learner activities are designed to support students while they're engaged in the learning process. So while I have been at schools and teaching about the different learner activities that are available, today we are going to be focusing on the writing coach. To get to these Khanmigo tools, you just click on Khanmigo at the top of your screen and click on learner activities. Here is a list of all the different Khanmigo learner activities that are available. Obviously today, focusing on the writing coach. I want to point out that this is an instructional tool. It's not an evaluative tool. It's not a grading platform. The purpose of the writing coach is to really guide the students through the writing process and giving them insights, giving the teachers insights into the writing process that the students are engaged in. It really allows teachers to shift their focus from just their final draft or their output to the process of writing itself. Students are given high quality feedback throughout the process. And it also really gives some insight for teachers to know, are students able to take feedback and implement them successfully throughout the process? This is geared for students who need a lot of help with the writing process, but it's also for students who always raise their hand and they're kind of unsure, right? They need a little more guidance along the way, even though they're probably more than capable. And it's also for students who know what they're doing and don't need as much assistance and want to still engage in the writing process in a more structured format. So first, we're going to walk through the teacher experience. There are 3 parts to this, and the first part is focusing on effective essay instructions. Then we're going to look at prompting strategies, and as well as how to assign the writing coach. When you are assigning the writing coach, you're going to notice that there are 3 types of essays to choose from. So you can have a persuasive, an expository, or a literary analysis. But when you're entering these essay instructions for these essay types, we really want to focus on the prompt because the power of getting what you want students to engage in is in the prompt. So we're going to use this prompt as an example today. I personally thought it was a great idea since daylight savings times just happened And I know that it's a struggle for my kids to have to come inside a little earlier, especially when the weather's so nice out. So the focus is going to be daylight saving times. It's a persuasive essay. And while this is the essay instructions, right? So I have gotten this from a sample prompt. I want to show you different ways that you can make this a little bit more specific. So when you type in something like, you will be graded on the following, or this assignment is to prepare you for the 8th grade Florida Fast Writing Assessment. This makes it tailored, that Khanmigo will tailor their feedback to you, the teacher, and as this that you want for the students. Okay. So we're going to go show you another example of that. Here is the FLDOE grading rubric for grades 7 through 10. So what I did was I copied and pasted the level 4 expectations for the purpose and structure, development, and language. And I'm going to paste those into the assignment when we walk through the process of assigning it. That way, it is really standards based. It's focused on what feedback I want students to be engaged in so that they are getting to the rigor of the actual assignment and making sure it is preparing them for that type of essay. So I'm going to go into my platform. So this is my demo account. And when I'm in, I'm going to click on Khanmigo at the top and look at learner activities. So here is the list of learner activities that we have. I'm going to scroll down on the left to Writing Coach. Okay. You're going to see here a list of my assignments. These are all assignments that the teacher has assigned. Over here where it says my essays, these are some sample essays that are already included so that teachers can kind of go in and look at what it looks like on a student side without having to actually make yourself your own essay assignment. And a little bit about this activity here. So I'm going to click on Assign and walk you through this process. So first, I'm going to put in our title, daylight savings time, and then this is for a 10th grade, okay? And I'm going to put a little note here to you guys. So when you're assigning this, if you have advanced students, I recommend selecting a higher grade level to increase the rigor of feedback because they're going to be getting feedback based on the grade level that we select here. So if you have 10th grade students, but maybe they're a little bit more advanced and they need a little bit more of a difficult and higher level standard, you can assign them 11th grade or 12th grade. So please note that the grade level you choose here is determining the kind of writing feedback and increase and rigor that they're going to get. So we're going to do a 10th grade. And this essay is a persuasive or argumentative essay. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to paste those essay instructions that we had from earlier and put them right here. Okay, so those were just the original essays, that instructions that you saw on the first slide. Then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to go get that level 4 score expectations. I'm going to copy them and paste them underneath. So now you'll see here we have this assignment is an assignment to prepare for the Florida Best Standards Based Writing Assessment. You will be graded on the following. Okay, so this really helps the feedback that students are going to be getting from Khanmigo to be tailored to everything you're expecting from your students. And if you want, you can change the formatting in here. So if I want to highlight, those different sections of the rubric, you can. And up here, I'm going to leave this one bolded and I'm going to underline this one. So you have the options because students will be able to see all of this. Now, then I'm going to go to the minimum word count. It's really important to note that this number here, you really want to make sure it's a minimum. And the reason why is because students will not be able to move on and continue their essay unless or turn in their essay unless they've met this minimum. So I'm going to put in a minimum here of 700. When you are assigning your Khanmigo Writing Coach, you have the same options like any other options in Khan Academy. You can select multiple classes or just certain classes And you also have the option of differentiating for certain groups of students. And then we are going to click assign. All right. So now we're going to take a look at what this looks like on the student side, right? So I'm going to go into a demo student account that I have right here. I'm going to refresh this page just so I can get that assignment in. This whole process, it does take students several days or weeks to complete. So what I'm going to show you here is a very quick, brief overview of the student experience. I'm going to copy and paste some different things in that I already have prepared, just so that you can kind of have a visual of what it looks like on the student side. So this is the student here. They have their classes. This is the assignment I just put. They can click this here, or they can click start. So once the student gets in, they have their 4 different areas that they're going to be working through. They're going to be working through understanding, outlining, drafting, and revising. The first thing they see is the assignment. So now we're going to look here and we see our class that was assigned in. Here's our essay type and the due date. These are those essay prompt. And then here, this is where we put the you will be graded on the following, and I entered that rubric from the Florida Department of Ed. So you can see all that down here and their minimum word count. On the side, you're going to see a chat with Khanmigo. It's already going to be pre-populated. So what students can do is they can start to get a little bit of insight. So for example, if I want them to Khanmigo to explain the essay type or what the requirements are, they can do that here. So I'm going to click on here and go, what are the requirements? Okay, so Khanmigo is going to give me a little bit of a brief summary of what I need to do in this assignment. Now, the purpose of this understanding stage is so that students know exactly what the teacher is requiring of them, exactly what they were going to be engaging in. I'm going to put down here, so if you have any students who maybe are not as a fan of reading as much text as some people, or maybe they are learning English for the first time, you can ask Khanmigo to use less words. And this is definitely something you're going to want to model for your students so that they're understanding how this process works. Okay, so it gave me a little bit less words, and now I can understand. I'm graded on structure, development, and language, and gives me a brief overview. Once the students are ready, they can click on Start Outlining. This is going to be tailored to the type of essay that you chose. So if you chose, we chose here the persuasive, but if you chose an expository, this outline is going to look a little different, right? So they're formatted so that they kind of go with the type of essay that was selected. But you are able to move things around and delete things. So there is some flexibility for adding and removing parts. So I'm going to take my outline that I have already and put in my thesis and claim stating that daytime savings shouldn't be observed because it's too confusing. It's bad for people's health and the energy impacts aren't worth it. I personally would like to add that my kids like to play outside when it's nice out in Florida and would be nice if they had a little extra time. Moving on to our main point. So I'm going to go down here, and my first main point we saw in my thesis is daylight savings time is too confusing. Then it has here the option for giving an evidence and a source and an explanation. But maybe the students just want to kind of put their topics in. They can do that. So I can put the first main point. Then I can go in here and do my second main point. And my last main point, because sometimes maybe that is easier for students to just kind of get that out of the way first. All right. And then as you can see here, if students are working through and they're like, you know what, I actually want this to be the second point, they can click on here and they can move that down. And now it's been relocated down here. So students are really needing to make sure that when they're doing this process, that this outlining process, that Khanmigo is over here to help them at any time. So I've got my 3 main points. I can go over here and say, can you check my outline so far and get a little feedback? It likes my thesis and it says, now I need to focus on finding credible sources to support each point. Consider how each piece of evidence backs up your argument. So Khanmigo is there if students need it to work them through this part. So I'm going to go and get my evidence and put it in. This is for the first one. Too confusing. And I'm also going to put in my source. All right. And then the next one, my evidence example. This one is for it's bad for your health because I'm actually going to put this back down. And my source. This step's just trying to, it's a long process, but trying to get some examples in here for you. And the last one. That's not right. How do I undo that? That's not what I wanted. Okay. So now what the students are able to do, now that they have this in here, they can add another body paragraph. So maybe they know that this is a requirement and they are, or they have more, they want to elaborate further. They can add more body paragraphs. While they're in this paragraph, I can add more evidence and examples, add more explanations. So there's a lot of options for students here. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on, oh, and I do want to point out too, a student can also click on the assignment down at the bottom. So while they're chatting, they can also come back and say, wait a minute, what was it that I was supposed to be working on? So they can kind of look here and make sure they're meeting those requirements. So now I'm going to go to the drafting stage and you're going to see alert at the top. It says, it looks like you've left part of your outline empty. A complete outline will ensure you have a strong first draft. So I have the option of ignoring and moving on. I don't know if you noticed it here. I didn't put any reasoning or explanations. I just put my evidence. And I did that for each one. So it gives them this little alert and lets them know like, hey, by the way, you didn't do this part. Again, that's linked back to what was required in the prompt. I can click on show details and it'll show me here and bring me right to each one if I got a lot of information and I'm not able to kind of find exactly where that is. I'm going to hit ignore and move on. And then students are brought here. So even if students didn't ask Khanmigo to check their outline, you saw there, Khanmigo did give a little like, hey, by the way, and gave them a little alert. So then when they're in the drafting stage, they have access to this, the outline that they created from the previous page. So you see over here, here's my thesis. Here was my main point for body 1, body 2, and body 3. So students have access to that outline and they're able to copy and paste these things into their essay. So if maybe they want to change some things around, they can. They have all those options here. They can also down here chat with Khanmigo. So they can say, hey, help me get started, check my work so far as they're going through, and they still have access to the assignment. I'm going to paste in my essay draft for our time purposes because that would be a long while that you're watching me type that. So here is my essay draft. And then I'm going to go over here and ask Khanmigo to add another body paragraph for me. And what you'll notice is Khanmigo is going to say, I can't add content for you, but I can help you think about what to include. Consider addressing a counter argument or how you can effectively present your position. What evidence supports your stance? Let me know. So I'm going to say, what is a counter argument? So now Khanmigo is going to explain it. And I'm going to say, can you give me one? I need help, right? So students have the ability to have this Socratic tutor conversation with Khanmigo over to the side and get some different support as they're working through this part of the drafting. Okay. Again, they always have their outline here at the bottom. And now I'm going to click on next, start revising. Oh, and this is where we have to have the 700 words. I did not put the right number of words in here. So we're just going to paste that again for my purposes. But see what I was telling you here? If the students don't meet that minimum requirement, they will not be able to go on. Now it's going to give me this alert. Are you sure you're ready to revise? You can only send your first draft to Khanmigo for feedback once. So make sure your first draft is ready. Okay. What that's saying is that students aren't able to go get feedback on that entire draft. But what you're going to see is Khanmigo is going to give me feedback on every single part, and I can still get support along the way for those little parts. So now Khanmigo is going to work, and Khanmigo is going to give me feedback, which is going to talk about my introduction, my evidence and reasoning, my structure, my conclusion, my style, and tone. Students are able to kind of keep track of all of this. They can mark things as resolved as they go, and they can keep them, and they can even unmark it. If they resolved it and then decided they want to unresolve it, they can. And so students are able to really kind of go back and forth, because we know this is going to be a long time that students are working through this process. And remember, when we put in our prompt, the feedback we're getting right here, this is the feedback that's aligned to the essay instructions we provided. And it's going to be in these different 5 sections, making sure the students are getting tailored feedback to what you put in for your essay requirement. So you can see the first one, it says our introduction clearly states the thesis. So I can push this one up. Then it says here, I'm going to click this little down arrow. It says, consider providing more context about daylight savings time in the introduction. Why was it originally implemented? What are the common arguments? So it's got this whole little blurb about what they are suggesting. I can mark this as resolved and do nothing, but I can also ask Khanmigo, explain this, give me an example, check my revision, or ask them a question. So I'm going to ask for Khanmigo to give me an example. Khanmigo is going to give students an example, but from a different topic. So this is the topic of the importance of recycling, which has nothing to do with our daylight savings example or prompt, but it's a way of showing students how to do that without giving them the answer. So it's talking about how recycling is crucial in my introduction, and it's telling me how this is providing context and how it's doing what it said in its feedback, which was up here. So students are able to do something like that. They can even come in here and say, hey, I'm trying this. Can you check what I've done? So I'm going to go back to my feedback. So then when I'm here and I'm chatting, I can keep going back and say, hey, this is what I've put. Can you check it? So there's a lot of options for students as they're chatting with Khanmigo through this process. Then I can mark it as resolved. And you're going to see here these different numbers tell me how many feedback suggestions I'm getting for each one of these. So then I can go here into structure. And now I see I have 5 different feedback tips. So we always give some positive feedback as well. And then I'm going to go down here, and this is telling me I have duplicate paragraphs, because remember, I had to type it in because I didn't have enough words. Okay. Next, students are going to go to mark as complete. So when students are done, they can click mark and complete, and they're going to get an alert if we haven't done any and resolved any of these suggestions. They can ignore and move on, and you will be I will show you in the teacher point that you'll be able to see that they ignored these and that they didn't revise them. Or I can close it and I can keep working through. I'm going to mark as complete, and this is what it looks like for students. And they are going to get a little celebratory moment, which I think is huge because writing an essay takes a lot of work. And then they have the ability to export the essay. They can export it to a Word doc, a PDF, or they can save it directly to their Google Drive. So that is the process on the student experience, the student side. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to show you what it looks like in the teacher experience to analyze the reports that come through. And the cool thing is that these reports, you don't have to run the report when it's due. You can run this report and watch how and see where students are as they're engaging in this long process. So over here, we were at my essays. These are the sample ones. Here's my assignment. So now you can see this daylight savings time that I put in these 3 different classes. And what you can do is you can go over to the side and click review. Now you are able to find these in your teacher dashboard as well, But this is a nice quick way to be able to find them without having to be mixed in with all of your other assignments. So I'm going to click on review because you can see here, one student completed it. That was me. And now you're going to see the view of what you can get out of these assignments with your students when they're working through them. You can always expand your essay instructions so you can remember which essay that it was. And you're going to get a list of your students, and you're going to get all of these different pieces of information. It's going to tell you the progress. So this is like, where are your students, whether they're in the understanding phase, the outlining, the drafting, or the revising. It'll tell you the most recent time that the student were active on the writing coach. It'll tell you how long a student spent. So here you'll see I spent 13 minutes. It tells you the word count. And here's where I talked about the feedback. So it says I've only resolved 1 out of 10 feedback that I was given. So you can kind of get an insight to that. And then we're going to talk about originality. Originality is going to have 2 different flags. This is going to let you know if students pasted 10 or more words into different fields. Okay, so if a student is doing any of these copy and pasting from outside sources, they're going to get these 2 flags, and you'll be able to click on this, or actually if you hover over it first, you'll get a little overview that this was the demo account I was in. I pasted my thesis, I pasted my main topic, right? And so it's a student's not actually typing it in. We don't really give these flags are not given to students. They're not something that they're able to see because it's not supposed to be student facing. We really want students to be engaged in this authentically. If they're realizing that it's just, oh, all it is copy and pasting, we don't want them to figure out a workaround, right? When you're in this report, you can click on this here, and it's going to open this specific student's entire thread. So now I can look at, this is who we were doing in that student account. We can see my final draft if I wanted to. I can see how long I reviewed the assignment. I only reviewed the assignment for 2 minutes. When you are in this understanding phase, you can see over here, this was my chat. Remember, I asked Khanmigo, what are the requirements? I asked him to use less words. So you also have insight on what were the interactions the student were having with the person giving them feedback. You get that for all of these different parts. When you see the flag, it's going to tell me here, I pasted 23 words from an outside source. Again, you can always see my chat. So there's a lot of information. You can see a first draft if you want to see what the students did at first. Again, you still have the chat history. And then you can see what I submitted for feedback, as well as what the draft was when it was complete. So that's when you're in one individual student report. I'm going to go into my slides and kind of show you a little bit more of what it looks like when there's a lot of data. So again, this is kind of a report of what it might seem like when you have a bunch of students, right? So we can see here that Omar is at step 1 of 4, and he's on the understanding phase. He's only spent 4 minutes and has not written anything else. When you're here, you can see these 2 have completed it. We can see how much time they spent, their word count, and here this person resolved all of their writing suggestions, and here they only resolved 16 out of 22. When a student has not finished it or not started, if it's past due, you'll get this little alert here. And again, it gives you an overview of where everybody is in that moment. You're able to click on any of these blue titles, and it'll open up and bring you right into that student view. Again, you can hover over, you can hover over here to see what exactly was critical without having to go right into their particular assignment. And like I said, you can click on these and get your individualized report for each student. Here's an example of what it looks like when a student had 64 words from an outside source. It's going to tell you the flag, and it's also going to highlight it for you in their draft. And then I'm going to go back into our teacher account. I'm going to go back home to assignments. I'm going to show you where you can also find this in your teacher dashboard. So when you're in your class, you can click on the title of your class. And over here under assignments, You can click on manage to manage the assignment, or you can click on scores. So if I clicked on scores, now you can see that daylight savings time essay title right here. And you see this little check mark, which shows that they submitted it. So if I click this blue title, because some of these other Khanmigo assignments, you can't click on this blue title, but for the essay one, you can. So if I click on this blue title, that's going to bring me right back to that same place that I was able to get the writing coach in this view when I was in the Khanmigo teacher tools. So then it shows me everything as well from when I was in here from before, and then I can go back to my class. If you click on a specific student, it'll bring you to their kind of report and it'll show you what they've been working on. But this is just an overview of everything. It's not just with their particular assignment for Khanmigo. If you click on assignments, you can see a list of all their assignments and go into their particular assignment that way as well. So there's a lot of different ways you can go in and see any of the activity your students were working in. Okay, so that is the writing coach in kind of a quick, very quick overview. What does it look like when you implement this in the classroom? You want to make sure you're using those clear standard-based prompts. You want to model all these stages. Like, so I know I went through it very quickly, but this could even be something where you have one as well, and you walk through the stages with them and say, okay, we're at the understanding part. This is what it looks like. Go over a little overview with them, and then they can go into their computers and they can kind of engage with Khanmigo through that part. That way it's more of like kind of scaffolded for them. Make sure you encourage them to chat with Khanmigo. Again, modeling it for them will really help. And going through these insights as they're going through the process, right? So not just looking at the reports when they're done, keep looking at their reports along the way as they're working, so you can kind of keep students saying, okay, this is where I need you to get a little more help, and the teacher can kind of step in. Maybe they're not keeping up with the pace, or they're not actually working in there, because you can see how much time they've spent. The other thing is making sure you go into the individual assignments, right? Because what we're trying to do is free up your time. Instead of taking these piles of paper home and having to write these feedback, students are getting this feedback live and in real time. But checking in with students and diving into their specifics and still having that teacher interaction is really what we still want for students. So you're able to do that alongside with them, because you're not having to take all these and grade them and revise them for the students. You can even have these check-ins with them a little more authentically. And also ask students, get feedback from the students about the process. How is this going for them, right? The other thing I do want to point out, so I'm going to go back into my student account. Students are able, let me go back home. Students do have access to this and can start this process on their own without it being assigned. So I'm in this a student account here. I can go down to my Khanmigo activities, and these are all of my learner activities, and I can click on Writing Coach as a student. I can see all of my essays, right? Where I completed this one today, where I'm at in all of my essays. But I can also begin a new essay. And this is going to look very similar to the process of assigning it. So if you didn't want to assign it and you wanted to just let students know that it was a tool they could use, they could come in here and they can put in the title, their grade level, and the type, and they can copy and paste, and they can start working through that process on their own. The thing is, if they do this way, you aren't going to get any insights in here in your teacher dashboard, because it wasn't something that you had assigned to them. Is there any questions? I know I haven't been looking at the chat. Has any questions come up that I can answer from the chat? Is there a way for students to see word count as well while they're running to or close to finish? So let me show you in the student account. Oops. Let me go back into my essays. So here we have this essay is in the revised process. So while the students are in here, okay, at the bottom, see here on the bottom? So I'm in my revising part. I can see here my word count and that what the minimum requirement was. So the minimum requirement was 493. I can see I'm already at that and above. And so yes, that is detailed for the students at the bottom of their draft. Good question. They probably could just ask Khanmigo for an updated workout. Let's see. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to chat with Khanmigo. How do I get into, I guess because I'm not here, maybe in the drafting. Let's go back to the drafting. Let's chat in the drafting. So it says your draft is about 445. You'll need to add more to reach the 493, and you can see that here. Doesn't seem that it's very accurate though, because this says we're approximately at 445. So I would recommend students would go here and check this workout on the bottom, because this is going to be more accurate. Any other questions? I do believe you guys all have access to these sample essays. So when you go into Khanmigo and click on Learner Activities and go down into the Writing Coach, you will have here My Essays, and you should have these sample ones that you can go into and play around with and practice as if you were a student and kind of look through. And it says this, you're viewing a sample essay, but you can kind of go through and see what it looks like for the student's side. All right. Well, if you are in need of any support, you do have this email that is geared towards Palm Beach County School District employees. Feel free to reach out. And you can also join fellow educators on Facebook and Instagram to stay up on date on any Khanmigo tips and tricks from around the state of Florida.
All right. Thank you, Tamsin. That was excellent. I learned a lot today. I know that this is going to be super beneficial for our students and helping them with their writing process, and also for our teachers, encouraging them to have the students write their essays inside of Writing Coach so we know that it is their own work, right? So I'm going to just close up. I'm going to put you down for just a second, Tamsin, before we end the session, and I'll see you in just a minute. So for those of you who are interested in in-service points, please make sure you are registered for the course inside of the e-learning system. That course will close tomorrow, so just make sure you register before the end of the day. We still have a full day of learning available for you. Upcoming more Khanmigo. We have specific sessions on the teacher tools. And then we also have some content specific sessions for our math, science, social studies, electives. And then we also have other sessions with Adobe and Canva and Typing Club. So we do hope to see you back here with us throughout the day. Also, we have a mailing list, we have a website, follow us on Twitter. These are all of the ways that you can stay engaged with the EdTech team. We would love to see you. And last but not least, definitely want to invite you to submit a proposal to present at this year's Educational Technology Conference. It's going to be held February 24th at Garcia High School. Tamsin, along with some of the other folks from the Khan Academy team, will be joining us live and in person. So we would love to see you there, and we would love to see what you can present for our conference. From everyone in the EdTech team, we appreciate you being here today. We look forward to seeing you later on this afternoon. Tamsin, thank you so much for being here with us, and we'll see you real soon.
Thank you.
Bye.